that I love so much about this event is that it's a great opportunity to network with colleagues. I've seen people I haven't seen in a couple of years, and it's always so emotional to hear what they have to say about accepting their award. And again, it reinvigorates your commitment to social work and social welfare in the community to hear them speak. So for everybody who's watching this, I hope you'll have the chance to do this live some year, because nothing replaces the live experience. Welcome.
We're involving social work across the state. It's not just UCLA, not just USC, it is all of the schools of social work across the state, plus people who are practicing across the state. So it gives us a time to meet with people we haven't seen in a while, who work at a distance. But also, I have always found that when I leave this event, I feel so inspired, and I feel so glad that I am a social worker.
The Hall of Distinction is critically important to honor social workers, those within our profession who've made an outstanding contribution not only to the profession, but to our clients and to society. Jim Carles founded the Hall of Distinction, and I was one of the first people along with him, and I'm so pleased to see the growth of this committee, which is now part of the California Social Work Archives, and I know that Jim would be too. It's an opportunity to hear the vision, the thoughts, the feelings of outstanding social workers in our profession, who talk about their clients, they talk about ideas, they talk about their experience, and it's an irreplaceable experience, in my opinion. When I leave the Hall of Distinction on the trip home, it reminds me many times over why I'm a social worker. And I feel that it's something that I reflect on, think about all year long. I'm so grateful to be a social worker, and I'm very grateful that we have this so special event.
You know, having the Social Work Hall of Distinction is very important, because it recognizes the incredible work the social workers do across the country, and it particularly calls out those people who have done exceptional work throughout their careers. So it's really important to recognize those folks, because that inspires the next generation of social workers to get involved and to really bring their A game every day to help change society. The feeling you have at these events is that it's really uplifting. It's like a mountaintop experience where you feel really invigorated, and you feel like running through a wall when you have that next set of challenges to be able to help people and help communities.
This is important because it serves as an inspiration for both social work students and social workers in general to hear about those who have been honored, the kinds of things that they have done in their careers, and it also shows the diversity of things you can do with a social work education.
And I'm so happy to be here at the Social Work Hall of Distinction Induction Ceremony 2016. This is one of the highlights of the year for professional social work, and I'm so pleased that I can be a part of it. I serve on the selection committee, and every year we honor tremendously wonderful, important, significant social workers, just as we are tonight. So I want everybody to go to the Hall of Distinction website and look at all the wonderful social workers that we have inducted. And if you have ideas for social workers, please let the Hall of Distinction Committee know. Thank you very much. So when I leave the Hall of Distinction, I'm walking on clouds, because I've heard about some of the best social workers that have ever practiced in California. So that whole experience just leaves you with such a positive feeling for the next several days. And I can't help but tell everybody I know about the ceremony, about the individuals nominated and inducted, and about the wonderful, wonderful world of professional social work.
Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to the 2016 Social Work Hall of Distinction Induction Ceremony. My name is Colleen Friend, and I'm the chair of the Hall of Distinction Committee. And I'd also like to acknowledge the members of the committee that are here today. I'd like to ask them to stand, and I'd like to ask everybody to hold their applause so that we could applaud at the very end. So my fellow committee members are Nancy Lim Yee. Nancy, could you stand, please? Okay. And then we have Suzanne Dworak-Peck. Suzanne. And we have Esther Gillies. And then we have Joe Nunn. Joe Nunn. And Catherine Ralph. And Janlee Wong. So please give these people a round of applause. Thank you. So speaking of Catherine and Janlee, I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank NASW California for all their collaboration and planning and sharing this event with us. You know, we are not necessarily the same thing as NASW California, but we're closely related, almost cousins. So thank you very much. And I know that some of the leadership of NASW California is here today, and we want to thank them for being here and for supporting this event. Thank you very much. A couple of times, let's see. Next, I'd like to acknowledge the various social work schools and organizations that have been sponsors of this event, and we're fortunate enough to have 20 sponsors of this event today. So I'd like to read them off, and I'd like all of you to acknowledge them with me, but let's hold our applause to the very end, and I will acknowledge when we have some directors here today. So first, we're going to start with California Dean and Director, School of Social Work. They were a sponsor, as well as something that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts, the California Social Work Education Center, CalSWIC. And then we have California State University, Fresno, Department of Social Work Education. And we have California State University, Fullerton, Department of Social Work. And I do believe that David Chanot is here. David? On his way. Okay. California State University, Long Beach School of Social Work is also a sponsor, as well as California State University, Los Angeles School of Social Work. Do we have somebody here from my own School of Social Work? I'll be on their case on Monday. But I do have our Associate Dean of Diversity, Rita Ledesma, here, so she's also representing them. And we also have California State University, Sacramento, Division of Social Work. And our next sponsor is the Central California Social Welfare Evaluation, Research, and Training Center. And then we have the Child and Family Policy Institute of California. Manuel Frimbris is also a sponsor, and Manuel is a San Jose State University professor emeritus, and even though Emmanuel's not with us today, he's also an inductee of the Hall of Distinction. And next we have Esther Gillies as a sponsor, and Esther is a member of the USC Susan Dvorak-Peck School of Social Work, retired, and also the president of the Social Welfare Archives, and you'll be hearing from Esther later on in the program today. Then we have Loma Linda University, Department of Social Work and Social Ecology, and we have Bev Buckles here today, so thank you, and you'll be hearing from Bev later on today. And then we have Nancy Lim Yee, who's the first vice president of NASW California, and Nancy's also a member of our committee, so thanks for being a sponsor. And next we have National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, and we do have Janlee Wong, the executive director, who's here today, and he'll also be the MC and Master of Ceremonies in a few moments. Then we have San Francisco State University School of Social Work and San Jose State University School of Social Work. Then we also have Suzanne Dvorak-Peck, who's also a sponsor in her own right, and she's an ambassador from the International Federation of Social Workers. And we also want to acknowledge Suzanne's tremendously generous gift to the USC School of Social Work, which we will do a couple times this afternoon, and thank her for that, and thank her for the renaming of the school in her honor. And we'll also acknowledge the UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare as a sponsor, as well as the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs, Department of Social Welfare, and Todd Franke, their director, is here today. And then we also have the USC Suzanne Dvorak-Peck School of Social Work as a sponsor, and I know we have many faculty and emeriti faculty here today representing the school. I also want to acknowledge that we have Dr. Angelo McLean here today, and he is from the national NASW headquarters. And so for all our sponsors and Dr. McLean and Suzanne Dvorak-Peck, can we have a round of applause, please? I hope that everybody here will also put on their calendar our event that we have on behalf of the Social Welfare Archives. We have it in April. We have it at USC at the Galen Center. And this year we're going to have a tremendous silent auction. And I hope that you'll be encouraged to come and see other contributors to the field of social work and social welfare that will be honored at this event in April. At this point in the program, I usually tell you a little bit more about the Hall of Distinction and the Social Welfare Archives, but I'm honored today to show you a brief video that helps explain it. And it talks about the mission of our two conjoined programs. And so with that, I'll ask you to watch this video. And when the video's over, Janlee Wong will be here as your Master of Ceremonies. Thank you very much for watching the video.
In 1979, the California Social Welfare Archives, CSWA, was established by a small group of dedicated social workers who were deeply committed to ensuring that the theories, knowledge, and understanding achieved by their generation were preserved for future scholars, social welfare advocates, and social workers. That the countless advances achieved in social welfare during past decades would not fade away and be forgotten. And that past and present information would always remain available to inform students, historians, and those influencing programs, legislation, and social justice in California. CSWA has evolved into a statewide, nonprofit organization affiliated with the USC School of Social Work and the USC Doheny Memorial Library Special Collections Department. Today, CSWA curates a rich, one-of-a-kind collection of social welfare documents and oral histories, which enables users to examine linkages between the past and present and develop deeper understandings of today's issues and create a historical foundation from which to address future social welfare problems and solutions. The archives houses over 400 collections of historical social welfare documents, some dating back to the 1880s. For example, CSWA holds the records of Rancho Los Amigos Hospital, which began as Los Angeles County's poor farm and became an internationally renowned rehabilitation hospital.
The CSWA files were all extremely useful for my dissertation on post-World War II medical care systems in the United States. Materials like those in your social welfare archives are enormously helpful because they allow one to excavate the rich local dimension of major historical institutions. I was also able to use the materials to refine my scavenger hunt. I wrote down lots of names, policies, and groups that I'd never heard about, and now I can go out and search for them.
CSWA's ever-expanding collection of over 125 oral history interviews, conducted over the past 3 decades, document the history and lessons of influential social workers and social welfare programs. These audio and video recordings have been accessed by thousands of visitors to the CSWA holdings and websites.
I've had many wonderful conversations with my grandparents and with my parents, but you know, those conversations are all lost now because they were never recorded. The oral histories are something that we're going to treasure for years to come because these are not personal memories as much as they are memories of people that have made important and significant contributions to social work practice and policy.
The California Social Work Hall of Distinction creates an ongoing legacy of the accomplishments of extraordinary social workers who have made significant and enduring contributions to California social welfare. Honorees are selected annually by a statewide panel of social workers and are inducted into the Hall, where the impact of their exceptional contributions is documented and preserved for future generations. Today, social work schools throughout California include the study of historical figures and social welfare innovators whose biographies and interviews can be found on the Hall of Distinction website. Each year, CSWA also presents George Nickel Awards, named after its founder, to outstanding contributors to the health and welfare of California. The Francis Lomas Feldman Excellence in Education Award was established in 2010 to acknowledge exceptional contributions to social work education in California. Join us today to support the success and the future of the CSWA. Please visit www.usc.edu/CSWA.
Thank you so much, Colleen, friend. She's a true friend to everyone. No, okay. Finally, somebody got it. My name is Janlee Wong. I'm the Executive Director of NASW California, but even before that, a native Californian from Riverside, California. My parents were immigrants. I was the first one in my family to not only get a master's degree in social work, but also embark on a really long, wonderful professional social work career. And that's why we're here today, to recognize that. So I'm going to be generally helping people move along, which means I won't be a friend to some people. And we want to spend the whole evening honoring everybody. So it's important that we measure the time. And if people see me sort of walking up, inching closer, that means your time is up. We're asking presenters and honorees to limit their remarks to about 5 minutes. And I know that's a very short time, but we have provided excellent biographies in your program. It does mean you have to read a little bit, but that's okay. There are pictures for those who don't want to read, so feel free. I am totally amazed by these inductees, and I know several of them personally, and I worked with Howard Carey when I was in San Diego. I know Jan Black well. I mean, it's just incredible, the number of people here. So you're in for a wonderful evening, and I hope you really enjoy it. I did want to point out there's a couple of committee members, Hall of Distinction committee members, that aren't here tonight, and they're also quite wonderful people. Francis Capel, Jim Kelly, Kim Gahagan, Anita Harbert, and there's also one who's here. I think he's snuck in a little bit, but Ben Cuellar is here. So he's been a tremendous contributor to this committee and helped us select quite a few wonderful inductees. So without further ado, I'm going to ask that we recognize some prior inductees here tonight, including Dolores Rodriguez, class of 2010, Fernando Torres-Gil, class of 2014, Alex Norman, class of 2014. And to get the whole picture of how broad our profession is in terms of great social workers, please go to the website. There are so many inductees there, you could spend a lot of time cruising the inductees. So the way the process works is that nominees are sent in to the committee, and also the committee helps foster and develop nominees. So if you're wondering, how do I get on the list? How do I get into the Hall of Distinction? You just need to contact us. You could do it through the website, through the email, or because we've identified the committee members to you tonight, you can just come up to us and say, hey, I've got a great idea for an inductee, or I want to nominate so-and-so. And we will be encouraging, we will be supportive, but we will say you must write up a great nomination.
to get these people in here. The other thing is we alternate between Northern and Southern California and coordinate with the NASW annual conference. So if you're a Southern person and you feel you want the ceremony to be in the South, the next opportunity will be 2018. And if you're a Northern person and you want to honor somebody at our ceremony next year, it'll be next year in the fall, 2017 in the North, most likely in San Mateo. So keep that in mind. It actually doesn't matter because we're all Californians, even though some people want to keep their water, so don't worry about that. Drink up Northern California water, it's on your tables. So anyway, we've had inductees from the north to south, from almost the Oregon border to the Mexican border, and we've had people of great diversity. You should be proud that professional social work recognizes our diversity in our country, and it's so important with this year's presidential election that we are inclusive. You know, we believe in diversity, and everyone who's here has some story to tell about diversity, whether it's directly, they know immigrants or their offspring or their ancestors or parents are immigrants. So that's what makes us great as a country, as a state, and as a profession. And I hope everybody really honors that. So I'm going to now turn this over to the person who's going to present our first inductee. It's the wonderful Dr. Bev Buckles from Loma Linda University, and ask her to come up and introduce our inductee.
Thank you, Janlee. Well, it is my distinct privilege to introduce my colleague and friend of many years, Janet Black. You have Jan's bio sketch, as Janlee pointed out, but it is only a brief summary of what I think you need to know about her. In her 45 years, she has served as a professional social worker, social work academician, and a consultant, improving the training and service work for public mental health. But in addition to that, if you could expand the print and start to read between the lines, maybe see the watermark that's behind all of the excellence in her bio sketch, what you would see would be words such as dedication, commitment, passion for service, unwavering integrity, ethical commitment to serve, excellence, collegiality, humility, and I could continue on and on and on. Does anybody have a dictionary? Because Jan is all those things and many, many more things. And Jan, as a friend and colleague, I can attest to, with firm commitment, that there is no difference in how you present yourself, personally or professionally. As a friend, you are unwavering. Your engagement and collegiality is second to none. And this honor that you received today is so well deserved. And by receiving it, you have honored all of us.
I am going to put on my glasses because 45 years ago I didn't need them. Now I do. First and foremost, I want to thank Dr. Buckles for that wonderful and very special introduction. It's my pleasure to be working with her on a consultation project right now. We've worked together on projects for the last 20 years and years before that when Loma Linda opened their School of Social Work. And she is just a treasure, and thank you very, very much. As I thought about what I'd like to say to you today, a first thought came to mind, and you've already heard Bev say it. I'm reminded that I began my professional social work career 45 years ago. Time does fly right by. I am still a practicing social worker and plan to continue with that as long as I can. Thank you. During those years, I had the opportunity to work with several large agencies, the VA Medical Center in Sepulveda, California, and Cal State University Long Beach School of Social Work, several statewide and community-oriented consultation work projects that I've been involved in for the last 17 years,
and I've enjoyed the opportunity to interact with individuals from various professions that are committed to providing service to assist individuals in a variety of ways. In these various positions, I've had various responsibilities, worked with a variety of age groups from child welfare, young children, to older adults, a variety of program areas as well. I've always stayed, however, involved with social work education as a primary focus, through work with students as a field instructor and a mentor, providing support to community agencies and training students. And I was instrumental in developing several educational programs in social work and developing collaboration and coordination with the surrounding schools of social work to form a working coalition of directors of field education. That, in fact, is also happening at a national level. At the Council of Social Work Education meetings, there is a whole consortium of field directors. And it's a wonderful opportunity to meet people from around the country to hear what's happening in social work in their area. I want to mention one piece of work that I think was particularly exciting and I think has been beneficial and a wonderful model. During my work at Cal State University of Long Beach, it was a brand new social work program when I started there. And shortly after that, we decided to develop a part-time social work program to allow people who are working full-time to come and get an MSW degree. Many of those individuals, in fact, worked with Los Angeles County Department of Children's Services, with the Mental Health Department, and it was a very, very successful program. It's still in operation. And one of the other things that grew out of that is, having that success, we thought, well, maybe we should do some distance education where we reach out to other areas that do not have a school of social work. They have a university, but not a school of social work. We did that. We set up initially 4 distance education programs with 4 universities, from Humboldt and Chico up north, down through Monterey Bay and Hayward, more towards the south. I'm pleased to say that every one of those schools that we did our distance education program with developed their own MSW program. Some of them, in fact, are now doing distance education in their local communities to reach individuals who cannot be at the school for a program. Several of them are working on the Indian reservations in the northern part of the state, and I think that's just such an exciting development for social work. Also, it's helping us, of course, expand our resources in California. My agency-based practice of the last 16 years in consultation has been with CalSWEC, the California Social Work Education Center, where we were very involved in developing curriculum, trainings, et cetera, that were presented to all the schools of social work across the state. And the most recent collaborative work that I am doing is with Dr. Buckles. We're doing a project with the Department of Mental Health, the Southern California Regional Partnership, which are the 10 counties in Southern California from the Departments of Mental Health. And we have developed a set of core competencies for clinical staff, including knowledge, skills, and abilities for each competency. We've also developed a set of core competencies related to those for the clinical staff. We've developed a set for the collaborative behavioral health service providers. That was the name that the paraprofessional staff suggested that we should use. We're now involved in phase 3 of that project, which is to develop a training module for each of those core competency areas. That will include videos and vignettes and resources and PowerPoint slides and a number of opportunities that then schools will be able to use and agencies will be able to use to train social workers in any number of fields, not just mental health, but many areas where social workers are involved. Some of the many individuals I worked with over the years are here today, and that's just been so wonderful to see a name, see a face. Sometimes the name takes a little longer to get through, but the faces are wonderful to start with. I do want to acknowledge again and thank those who wrote a letter of recommendation for me to be a designee for the Hall of Distinction, and to give us particular thanks and kudos to the individual who nominated me for this, and that was Dr. Jim Kelly. Many of you probably know Dr. Kelly. He has been a dear friend and a colleague and a mentor to me for many of the 45 years that I have worked, and I'm so appreciative of his always thinking outside the box and thinking of everyone. I'm going to say one more thing. One more quick comment. I saw the approaching Janlee. I'm so very proud to be a social worker and to uphold and be guided by the values and ethics of our profession. I'm honored to be inducted into the Hall of Distinction. I look forward to many more years of social work practice, and I join with all of you in celebrating our profession. Thank you.
Okay, Jan, it was not me approaching, it was my stopwatch. Okay. Blame the stopwatch. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda we have a induction of Dr. Howard Carey, and we have a presenter, the current president and CEO of Neighborhood House Association in San Diego, a tremendous organization, and it's Rudolph Johnson.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the 19-member board of directors and over 836 full-time equivalents on staff, we want to salute and thank the Carey family, Mrs. Carey, Rodney, Melba, and the Carey family for allowing us to be part of this great evening/afternoon. It brings me great joy to see the late, great Dr. Howard Carey, my mentor, my friend, and surrogate uncle, be inducted into the California Social Work Hall of Distinction. His body of work was very deserving of an honor such as this. For 33 years, he served as the president and CEO, which was exactly 1/3 of our total existence. So again, he was a powerful man in our tremendous community. The neighborhood house saw tremendous growth under my predecessor, Dr. Howard Carey's tenure. Millions of families were touched throughout his tenure, especially in the areas of Head Start. We now serve 8,000 children and families a day. The San Diego Food Bank was launched under his tenure. And on a personal note, I knew Dr. Carey outside of the office. I'm not just the president and CEO, I'm also a former client. In 1968, I went through the very same Head Start program that I've now been blessed to come full circle and lead. And as a student, I saw the vision and hard work that my good friend and mentor put in to this organization on a daily basis. And finally, I'll say this, my dad was his deputy director as well. So the legacy continues. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage a member of our team, the director of facilities, and Dr. Carey's son, Rodney Carey, to come and accept this wonderful honor. Rodney.
Good afternoon. As Rudy stated, I'm Rodney Carey, son of Dr. Howard Carey, and on behalf of the Carey family, which includes my mother, Yvonne Carey, my sister, Melba Tolbert Carey, my Uncle Sam and Uncle Roland, and my aunt Gladys, all who came from faraway places here to witness this today. We want to first thank Anita Harbert and the nominating committee for my father's induction to the California Social Workers Hall of Distinction. Unfortunately, my father is not here to accept this award, but I know first and foremost he would be grateful and humbled by this induction. Those who knew my father would attest that no matter what he accomplished in his professional life, he would always say, the one thing he always said is, I'm just a social worker, I'm just a social worker. So that, it's fitting that this, as he would say, self-proclaimed country boy from Lexington, Mississippi, is being recognized for his lifelong achievements and commitment to the work he loves so much. And lastly, I know he'd want me to thank all the individuals who worked with him throughout his professional career, but especially the members of the Neighborhood House Association, where he dedicated over 35 years of service to the San Diego community. So once again, from the entire Carey family, we all thank you.
I also want to add my own personal note. When I went to San Diego County to work for the county, I was very impressed with the fact that they had an African-American county supervisor, at that time a rarity. They also had a social services department director, African-American, and a probation department director, African-American, at the high levels of county appointments. And even though Dr. Carey didn't take credit for it, whenever I talked to those individuals, they always mentioned Dr. Carey. So thank you so much. Next on the list to induct is David Kuroda. Many of you know him, but you will learn a little bit more from the wonderful Esther Gillies, who is a retired clinical associate professor, USC's Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work.
I have known David Kuroda for over a decade. Worked side by side with him as a CSWA board member, experienced his capabilities as a team member, and watched him ponder problems to which he responded with very creative ideas, always thinking big, and marveled at his people's skills, always friendly, always supportive. And now this afternoon, I am so privileged to be the presenter for David Kuroda on the occasion of his induction into the California Social Work Hall of Distinction. David is a pioneer in the area of social work and collaborative law, also called collaborative divorce or collaborative practice, one of the most significant advances in family law in recent times. It provides a forum for resolving divorce disputes through negotiation and stipulation to avoid the negative effects of conflict on family members, particularly the children. When David was hired as a senior family mediator for Los Angeles County Superior Court in 1981, it was a different time. The concept of collaboration as we know it today was not common practice. Professional turf issues abounded. Social workers claimed involvement with children and families as the official turf of social work. Collaboration with other professionals working with the same children and families was the exception rather than the rule. So when David began practicing social work in the court system, he was pushing the boundaries of social work practice. He applied skills in negotiating that he had learned in his previous work with interdisciplinary health and mental health teams at Children's Hospital, as he engaged in his groundbreaking work in collaborative divorce with multidisciplinary teams in the courts. Those teams included lawyers, judges, financial professionals, and social workers, a truly innovative concept at the time. For 18 years, David worked with the Family Court Services, Superior Court of Los Angeles. He served as division chief, directing the Mediation and Conciliation Service, the first and largest court mediation program in the nation. He oversaw the county's district court mediation programs, the PACT program, and divorce seminars and visitation monitors. He focused on ensuring that mediation services were provided effectively to families going through emotionally difficult and challenging times. His concern was always on successfully transitioning children through that difficult process. While working in the court, it was an ethical question, as is so often the case for social workers, that pushed him to reconsider his career. He had made a public statement. The reason for courts' conciliation services is to help children and families avoid hurtful and destructive outcomes of divorce. He was immediately corrected by someone in his administration, I mean, we've all had that experience, right? You think you know what you're doing, and suddenly somebody tells you, oh no, that's not it. He was stunned. This was inconsistent with his ethics. And I didn't say what they said. The purpose of conciliation services, they told him, is to do what the judges want. Very different. He was stunned. This was inconsistent with his ethics. David was faced with making the best of a bad situation, or what? He wasn't sure. He pondered the situation. Then, after 27 years working in public service, he left. He developed a private practice focused on mediation and conciliation services for families and children caught up in the complexities of divorce, a successful practice where he continues to serve children and families to this day. David was born in Colorado during World War II, in the newest and 10th largest city in the state at the time, a setting enclosed by barbed wire with only the most basic military-like facilities, 348 barracks housing over 7,500 people. Camp Amachi, an internment camp for Japanese American citizens during World War II. At war's end, Kuroda's family relocated to several cities across the country, finally settling in Los Angeles. David, who always identified himself as a poor boy, grew up in the city not far from the University of Southern California. He attended public schools. When he began talking about college, his grandfather provided the tuition to attend USC for just the first 2 years. Lacking funds for ongoing tuition, David transferred to UCLA, where he received his bachelor's degree in 1965. In 1970, scholarship funds were offered to Kuroda by USC. He graduated with an MSW in 1972, and I will read faster. From his humble beginnings to the accomplished professional he has become, David has never forgotten his roots. He has volunteered for the mentor program at USC for academically struggling students. He remembers clearly that without financial support, he would not have been able to graduate from school, and he has served for a long time on the Asian Pacific Island Caucus Scholarship Fund. Throughout his career, he has served as a field instructor for students in graduate MSW programs. He serves as a volunteer mediator at the Torrance Court and is viewed as a mentor by other mediators in the court personnel. So we'll skip this great story, but anyone who wants to hear this great story, I have it with me today. Over his career, he's provided mediation services to over 8,000 families, assisted in overseeing thousands more. Earlier this year, he received the prestigious McFadden Award from the South Bay Bar Association. Until this year, this award had never been made to a non-attorney. David was the first. Today, David is being inducted into the California Social Work Hall of Distinction for his contributions in social work. This combination of awards speaks to David's success as a collaborator. He has made his mark: innovator, advocator, social work boundary spanner in both the legal system and the field of social work. David.
I've been called many things in my life, but never a poor boy. It sounds like a sandwich. Thank you very much, Esther. I've been on the board for over 20 years, and no one has been a better president and done more for CSWA than has Esther. Colleen Friend has done more for the Hall of Distinction than any other person, and we're all here today because of her efforts. Of course, the third member of our team is Katie Johnson. She is excellent. She puts this together, and I've been asked to have you hold your applause because you may want to applaud many times, but please don't. First of all, I acknowledge God and how He has great interest in my life and how He has blessed me. My parents were proud of me, and were they here and not in heaven, they would be even more proud for this day. Our lives are not lived alone. We owe so much to so many. My wife Alice, who doesn't usually come to these events, is here. You don't listen to me either. I said, please hold your applause. My son is here from San Francisco. Many members of my extended family are here. I especially want to acknowledge my mother-in-law, Terry Furuyama, who since my mother died has been like a second mother to me. She's 92 years old. My pastor, Ken and Debbie Tanquan, they're here. People from my church, from Palos Verdes Baptist Church. My collaborative practice group surprised me by coming here, and a number of them are here. It's called A Better Divorce, and we practice how divorce really should be handled for children and families. I'm especially honored that a sitting Superior Court judge is here today, Judge Mark Uhas, one of our finest judges. He is here. I want to thank Eleanor Wang, because she was the one who told me about the job at the court, and had it not been for her, I would not be here today. The next inductee is going to be Jane Kurohara, and had it not been for Jane's advocacy, USC never would have accepted me, so I want to thank her. Rama Weitzman from USC Children's Hospital, Jewish Family Service, has been a mentor, a teacher, and the most influential person in my social work life, and she's here. Today she's celebrating her 87th birthday. And of course, Frances Feldman, she was the one who tapped me for leadership with the school, and I appreciate what she's done. And then there have been many mentees, many students that I've had over the years, people who've taken my mediation training classes, and they're here, and I thank all of you. As you heard from Esther, I was born in an incarceration center. My first view of America was through barbed wire and gun towers. It was a very hard time for me, being Japanese after the war. People would say to me, one kid I remember said, you know, the Japanese killed my father. I would be made fun of. I was called names. When we had games on the playground, often I was the last to be chosen, and sometimes not at all. I was pretty shy then and really quiet, and I didn't know how to handle all that. One day, my sister, Andrea, asked my father, Daddy, are we poor? And he answered honestly, too honestly, he said, yes. My sister cried. Then I realized we were poor. A lot of these experiences have led me to the field that I practice today. When I was with the court, people had to see me. They would just say, okay, the Smith family, you're going to see Mr. Kuroda. They had no choice. But when I left the court, all those feelings of not being good enough came back. Would people refer to me? If people had a choice, would they refer to an Asian guy, a social worker? So I even thought that in my letterhead and my stationery and my cards, I would leave off LCSW, I would leave off social workers, because I thought people would not refer to me if they knew that I were a social worker. Slowly, though, my colleagues started referring cases to me for mediation, for counseling. My practice began to grow. One day in a court hearing, the lawyer said, you know, I'd like to suggest David Kuroda as the therapist for this family. The other attorney said, why would we want a LCSW, a social worker, to work with this family? The judge said, I know what an LCSW is. That's what David Kuroda is. And the referral was made. So I began to think that maybe we need to honor our profession more and let others know how we value being a social worker. About 4 years ago, I had open heart surgery. I almost died. My church friends were very loving. They sent me cards. They brought food. They visited me, supported my family. That's what church friends do. But you know what surprised me? My lawyer friends, my social work friends, my colleagues, not my family, these are people that I had known, also sent cards, made phone calls, acknowledged me. And some of the attorneys even said they prayed for me. And I didn't know that attorneys prayed that much. You can see the attorneys, they're back over there. I haven't always been so involved in the community on boards because we had just bought our house, and in order to supplement our income to help pay for the mortgage, our son was 3 years old at the time, we would have dinner and I would get up to leave and he would say, "Daddy, where are you going?" And I would say, "Daddy, going to help people." So this happened every Monday now for the following six Mondays. And one Monday, the same thing, "Daddy, where are you going?" And I said, "Daddy is going to help people." And then he said, "I don't want you to help people. I want you to be my daddy." I realized then that fathers are important and mothers are important. And this informs the work that I do because I believe that the greatest public health concern in this country is divorce and its effect on children and families. So my job as a peacemaker is to encourage parents to resolve disputes themselves with the help of collaborative lawyers and other professionals. I believe if we all do our part in lighting more candles rather than cursing the darkness, ours would be a better nation. I've never been prouder than to be a social worker today. Prouder to be a father, an American. And ours is a great nation when a little boy whose first view of America was through barbed wire and gun towers can have the life that I've had and be here today. This evening, my eyes are bright, my heart is full. Thanks to all of you.
So I'd just like to add a quick comment. I'm a little bit familiar with the Japanese-American culture because of a certain relationship I have, my wife. And typically, Asian Americans, particularly Japanese Americans, are kind of known for being quiet and not standing out. It's part of their culture. You know, when you're in a population over 100 million on a small island in the Pacific, you really have to be careful who you bump elbows with. But what I've learned from David is he not only succeeded from his experience in camp, but he also embraced American culture. You know, he mentioned that America is a great country, and it is, despite what people say today. And you can tell because he is a forthright, well-spoken, very thoughtful American today, and it's really due to his great effort to overcome what happened to him and his family and then become a professional social worker, and then a great one at that. So I appreciate David very much. I now have the honor of introducing the next presenter. He, in his own right, is a wonderful social worker, the retired executive director of the Little Tokyo Service Center. He's serving on the Board of Governors. It's Mr. Bill Watanabe.
Well, I will try to be brief. I could talk about Jane's commitment and dedication to the field of social work, but I'm not. I could talk about her drive, her energy, her great intelligence, but I won't. I can also talk about the tremendous support that she has provided for so many social work students over the years, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on one thing, one main quality about Jane that we all pretty much respect and admire, and that is Jane is very pushy. But in a good way and about the right things. Now, Jane was born in Hawaii, and Hawaii is a state that has tremendous cultural and racial diversity. It's a state where Asian Americans are in leadership throughout the community. And so she was used to that, and that's how she grew up. She got her social work degree from Washington University in 1954, and even had her wedding reception in the social work building on the campus. Now, I think that reflects some commitment to the field. In the late 1960s, Jane became active with the API caucus at UCLA, and she became involved with some of the others to try to pressure UCLA to become more ethnically and culturally diverse. She worked with people like, I think, Joe Nunn. I don't know if Alex Norman was a part of that. I could just see him in there. But they were there to try to open up the School of Social Work at UCLA, which at that time was predominantly Caucasian. Not that Caucasians can't make good social workers, but they can't provide the kinds of services in this metropolitan community to speak Chinese or Japanese or Korean and to be culturally sensitive to the needs of those communities. So it made a lot of sense that UCLA should change the diversity of its student body. And they did a tremendously bold step. They decided that 30% would be white, 30% of the students would be black, and 30% would be Latino. The other 10% was up for grabs. And apparently, some social workers, Jim Miano, Royal Morales, Paul Chikahisa, and Jane went to go talk to the dean to say that that 10% should be Asian Pacific Islanders. I understand that the dean resigned shortly after that meeting. I think he was impressed with how pushy these people were. In 1970, I attended UCLA as part of that 10% in the social work school. And my background was as an engineer. I got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I knew nothing about social work. It was only because of that 10% that I got in there. We had a caucus meeting. There were 8 of us Asian students, and we were meeting in a caucus. Jim Miano and Jane Kurohara came into that meeting, and they told us, "You are Asian Americans. You have to fight for your community. You have to advocate for the needs of the API community." And I was like stunned. I thought, boy, these people are pushy. But I got the message. I realized that's what I have to do. We have to advocate for ourselves. And that message came through. Now, Jane's pushiness got her invited to join the staff at UCLA in 1971. And for decades, she pushed and prodded many students, both UCLA as well as USC, to fight for our communities, to be the best social workers that they can be, and to advocate for the needs that exist there. It is my honor and my distinct privilege to be able to introduce to you our mother, our pushy professional person, Jane Kurohara.
Thank you. I'm very honored to receive this prestigious award and to be in the... I have my director out there, my daughter. She's telling me what to do. Okay. I want to thank also the HUD committee that had brought all my graduates back here today. It's such an exciting and exhilarating day for me. Thank you. Both Vivian Matsushige, Eleanor Wong, Vicky Takeuchi, and Linda Tanamachi. Unfortunately, Linda isn't here because she made reservations to take a cruise 6 months ago, but she was one of the activist students, and thanks to all of them, it is such an exhilarating and great day for me and for all our alumni, because when I came here, the room was just buzzing with people hugging each other. It was just a wonderful day for me. And so, yes, when I look back to the 60s and 70s, it was a very exciting time. You remember Angela Davis, affirmative action and call for change. Students at UCLA were marching from campus to Westwood, and the National Guards were called out to defend, I don't know who, but they were out there. I don't mean to be facetious, but they were out there guarding the troublemakers, and so the guns were facing us, not out to anywhere. So old times are here again. It really, affirmative action today is not the politest word to use, but it really brought us all together and really saw social action. With all of this, we have great movements in our community. As students, I want to point out that our students were very active and very energized. One of the earliest students was Dick Wong, here in the audience, and he wrote a proposal for Chinatown social service, and Alex Norman was his proctor, and Alex said, submit that, and maybe it might be funded. It was a proposal classroom. And so Dick submitted it to the Methodist Church, and they received the seed money. And today, Chinatown Social Service is a huge organization, and we have Irene Chu, who became the director, and many, many social workers who had worked for Chinatown Social Service. So it came out of a classroom project. Isn't that wonderful? We're so proud. And here is Dick Wong sitting right here. There were, from this affirmative actions, we've had a lot of things happening. As you know, Dick Wong, Bill Watanabe, and lots of, oh, and another thing that has also happened is that Eleanor Jung, 30 years ago, started the Asian American Counseling Center. Asians, prior to this, always kept their problems with the family. They just did not want other people to know about their problems. But 30 years ago, Eleanor Huang, and it was a project of SC students and UCLA students who started the Asian Pacific Counseling Center. And this April, they celebrated the 30th year of providing clinical social work in the Asian community. And all of you are here today. As you see, they were very energized, and they did some very innovative things for our society. Also, from this group, we have graduated 2 deans of schools of social work, one in Hawaii, and Tazuko Shibusawa, who was an undergrad, and undergrad and a doctoral student at our school, is now a professor. She was associate dean at New York University and did wonders at university. We are so proud of Tazuko. She wrote me a letter just 2 days ago, and she's unable to be here, but she wanted to say hello to all her friends and named all the accomplishments, and associate dean, and she's now working on a project to extend the school to China, and they have a special program for NYU to extend the campuses to China. So she has done wonders as an administrator and a social worker. We also have the dean of University of Hawaii, who was also a student at our school. As you see, affirmative action has done a lot, and the students also became leaders in public health, mental health, and if you look into our community, you will find a lot of our graduates there. So affirmative action was not a bad word. We really worked hard, and they are all over Los Angeles. I am so proud. Maybe we can give them a hand because they have really, really made us. Yeah, okay. As I say, it's really heartwarming for me to see that our Asian community is now well served with Asian social workers. In 1997, UCLA was started, and we had only 14 graduates, all doing this period until late 1960s, starting the class of '69. So I want you all to know that I am really proud of being part of the affirmative action that got us all here today. Okay, I'll make it short. Okay. I have 2 pages to go, but I guess I have to cut it down to 1. I just want to say that when I came to school, okay, I get your message. As they say, no verbal diarrhea, just get to the point. When I came up to school to Washington U, I was labeled a foreign student. I couldn't believe it. Here I was born and raised as a majority, and all of a sudden I became a minority. And I really, okay. All right. And I know that as a social worker, I had to really change gear from a majority mentality to a minority mentality. And this is the kind of thing that really pushed me to work in the area that I did, okay? But I really want to talk a lot more, but I can't. But all I want to say, one more thing. I want to say, a lot of our students that came to school were Greenpeace, just like me, straight out of college, limited life experience, but they came with strength and eagerness and wanting change. And so I want to say, hurrah for all the students that are here who were Greenpeace. Thank you. I have 2 more pages.
You know, it's so ironic that the committee asked me to be the MC, because you don't realize how difficult it is for me to ask an Asian American to leave the stage when we all venerate our elders. It's just incredible. But here's another wonderful guy, our next presenter. Jane's husband of 60 years, and her children. Hi, kids. The wonderful Dr. Fernando Torres-Gil.
Janlee, I'm happy to yield the balance of my time to Jane. Because if it's one thing we've learned at UCLA, nobody pushes Jane off the stage. But it's a beautiful evening and just a great occasion to honor all of our social work pioneers and leaders and awardees. And I have the great pleasure to induct another such person, Dr. Armando Torres Morales. Armando, as you can read in the program, in some respects is best known for his leadership in mental health, social work, and the Latino community. An advocate and a pioneer, and it's hard to believe that back in the 1960s, as in the Asian Pacific Islander community, no one thought that mental health services were relevant to the Hispanic community. Armando changed all that in many different ways. From being a pioneer as an administrator in creating the first psychiatric mental health program for Latinos, whether as the first Latino to get a doctorate of social work, whether as a leader in becoming an expert testifier in criminal justice cases, whether as an advocate for the East Los Angeles community, Dr. Armando Morales was a pioneer and a mentor and a role model for many of us. He comes from royalty, East LA royalty. His father was the founder of the East LA CSO. His mother, who I came to know, was a gerontologist and an advocate for Latino seniors in East Los Angeles. His parents helped to get Edward Roybal elected. But Dr. Armando Morales continued that legacy in his leadership as an innovator, as a pioneer, as a trailblazer. But he was also what we call a Chicano Renaissance man, a military veteran, a boxer, a musician. He knew how to live life. But most of all, he was a dedicated family man, dedicated to his family, dedicated to other families. It gives me great pleasure to introduce that family. Today we have his wife, Dr. Cynthia Morales, but he has two of his beautiful children that will speak towards his amazing accomplishments, and I'd like to ask Rolando and Christina to please come forward. Sadly, Dr. Morales passed away in 2008, but he left an incredible legacy. And just one example, at his memorial service, he asked that donations be made to Homeboy Industries and Father Gregory Boyle, continuing in the afterlife his commitment to his community and his family. I give you his children, Rolando and Christina.
I just want to say thank you. I didn't realize the gravity of my dad's work because he passed away when I was 12 years old, so the only thing I really got to see of his work was when he would take me to NPI, the Neuropsychiatric Institute over by UCLA, and I would get to go to office in office and get little candy bars from all of his coworkers. So that's what I understood from his work. It's dad's work, candy. So that's as much as I understood, and now I'm just getting to see the gravity of everything, and it's such an honor to be able, as an adult, to accept this with my lovely brother. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
I want to thank you. It was a beautiful tribute. Fernando, you just covered everything in a nice short space. And I know looking out upon all of you and knowing my father the way I do, he would have been honored and so proud to have been inducted. And we thank you all. When I was a child and adolescent, I got to see him evolve into the great man he became. As a child, he would take me to some of the functions, community activist functions, police brutality protests. I saw Cesar Chavez during one of his hunger strikes and watched him craft what became the seminal book, Ando Sangrando, a study of Mexican-American police conflict in East Los Angeles, and watched him publish that book himself when it was first rejected by the mainstream publishers as being indigestible for the Anglo reader, too scholarly, not professional enough. They just came up with so many excuses, and when he did it himself, it became a national sensation and was required reading at so many universities across the nation. There's so much that he did, and I'm very, very proud of him. And I know that in today's world, given all the things that are happening now with the Black Lives Matter movement, with this R-rated political campaign, I would love to hear his thoughts and his context on today's world, and we sorely miss his presence, and we love him on behalf of the whole family and of my father. And thank you so much, Fernando. We thank you. Thank you very much.
Sometimes you don't need a timer. I want to thank this crew, starting with Fernando, the daughter and the son. Wonderful. Next on the list here is a wonderful person that I just learned about, but he is so impressive. And if you don't know his story, look it up in the bio, but it's just incredible. As incredible as his presenter, Dr. Joe Nunn, who's going to come up here and introduce him.
Anybody ever watch the Apollo Theater? When the Sandman over here comes out and tries to push you off the stage. Good evening or good early afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here to introduce the next inductee, Dr. Terrence Roberts. I first saw Terry, I was in about the 9th grade, watching television. And there was a lot of turmoil, I was out in Los Angeles, by the way, about these youngsters in Arkansas just trying to go to school. There were 9 African-American youngsters who decided that Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas is where they wanted to go. I was struck as a youngster. I saw soldiers, I saw National Guard, I saw police, and I saw these kids steadily moving forward. If you ever watch The Eyes on the Prize, you can probably see Terry getting in the back of a station wagon. I saw faces that at the time to me were white Southerners with anger and hate across their faces. One woman was almost in hysterics. They're in our schools. They're in our schools. And I thought, what in the world is going on? Little did I know that I would meet one of those individuals later in my life. In 1968, I was fortunate enough to get into the Graduate School of Social Welfare at UCLA. Terry Roberts was in my class. Late 60s was a turbulent time, as was mentioned earlier. Things were happening on campus every day. I couldn't wait to get to school. Something was popping all the time. Dr. John Oliver was in the class ahead of us, and so he decided the black students ought to get together and decide what we needed to do to push forth a social justice and racial equality agenda. So that's exactly what we did. We wound up shutting down the school, carrying picket signs, closed it. It was funny though, because we didn't all understand what it meant to picket. I remember one of the students saying, hold my sign, I got to go to class. She grabbed it, no. That's not it, man. But again, really a good time to feel alive and trying to push for social change. I don't know if you remember this, Terry, but one day we were down in the community. We were down by Vermont and Santa Barbara Boulevard, which is now MLK Boulevard, and a woman from the Black Panthers approached us, and she said, "Power to the people." I was down for the movement, so I was about to go right on. Before I could do that, Terry said, "Power to some people." I thought, wow, many years later, I think about that because power is dangerous in the hands of the wrong people. We have to be careful who we allow to be in power. Election coming up. Our paths crossed again when I became the Director of Field Education at UCLA. When I arrived on campus, Terry was the Assistant Dean for Student Affairs. He played a key role in admitting students to the program and developing our cross-cultural course. Very popular with the students, and there are a lot of students who came into the program at UCLA that Terry Roberts was the first person that they met. Dr. Terrence Roberts, a man who has met presidents of the United States, someone who has been on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Tavis Smiley's show, Rachel Maddow, and many others. Someone who has been a consultant to the Tournament of Roses, Kaiser Foundation, the FBI, and many others. Stands tall in the field of social work. I'm proud to call him a colleague and a friend. Terry.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, and thank all of you, particularly all of those who had anything to do with my being up here today. Fortunately for me, I know what it means to be in the company of social workers because I always feel honored and at home. It's the kind of thing that takes me all the way back to when I was first introduced to this profession. We learned things that were seminal from the beginning. One of the things that stands out is in our work, in our personal life, whatever we do, always start where the other person is, making certain that you don't look up to anybody or look down on anybody. Everybody is peer in this universe. I was sitting there thinking today about some of the phrases that came to mind from school. You know, the most desirable alternative that is available to you as social workers, because you push hard, as Jane does, and a whole lot of other people too, pushing for change in our society. It isn't easy. It isn't easy at all. Why? Because you have tremendous opposition always. Just a few weeks ago, I finished reading a novel by Bernard Malamud entitled The Fixer. He wrote this novel in 1966. A very prescient sentence in that book. It's about Jewish anti-Semitism in Tsarist Russia. But the sentence goes like this: in a sick country, any sign of health is an insult to those who live off the sickness. So as you continue to do the very vital work that you do, know in advance that whatever it is that might be seen as something good and progressive will be an insult to those who don't want to see that because it interferes with their income stream. It interferes with getting tax breaks. It interferes with them being the kind of people they think they want to be. Little do they know, they're on the wrong trail. In any case, I appreciate what I've learned from social work. I've tried to take those principles with me wherever I go. And I have seen that when you are truly dedicated to what you do, good things do happen, regardless of the fact that the storm is coming. Now, I don't want to frighten you, because some of you have been so busy over the years building safety nets for those who might fall through the cracks. I want to commend you for that, but I also want to challenge you to go beyond that, to get to the reason why we need the safety nets in the first place. If that can be done, and I don't think it will be done in my lifetime, perhaps not yours, but you can be instrumental in making certain that something like that does happen in the very near future. Go forth and do well.
Well, I must be really intimidating. Everybody is like finishing wonderfully on time. And I just want to add a quick comment of my own. When I first started my social work education and career, I started to think, you know, we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude in the civil rights movement to the African American community of the U.S. I mean, let's give them a big hand. Unbelievable what they went through, unbelievable. So I'm going to bring up Esther Gillies for the closing.
Before we end today, just a word about the California Social Welfare Archives and what we are all about. In particular, reaching into the past, taking a look at what has occurred in the way of problems, what has occurred in the way of solutions, and capturing that information so we do not forget. And also so that we build on what has come before to help us move into the future in a more positive way. As part of its mission, it is the task of CSWA to celebrate social work, to acknowledge the achievements of social workers in the state of California. And that is the basis of our activities today. And I think that we have seen, I always find that coming to these events, I leave feeling very inspired, very grateful, and feeling very positive about the fact that I am a social worker. So I hope that effect will touch many of you here today. I have just a few last-minute announcements. I need to say thank you to a couple of people, families and friends of the inductees. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing in this experience. To Colleen Friend. Colleen, where are you? Somewhere here. Colleen, the chair of our Hall of Distinction Committee. And to Janlee, wonderful job emceeing. Even got me off the stage with words yet to be said. To Katie Johnson, our program manager, who's responsible for bringing it all together. And thank you to the UCLA students who on Saturday, a day off, when they didn't have to go to school, came here today and volunteered their time at the desk, the check-in desk. Great job. And to Marisa Limorand, who is the Director of Alumni Relations at UCLA, for all of her work in coordinating many activities that supported the event here today. And a thank you to all of you in attendance today. We are so grateful for your support and for being here to share with us. Just some specific reminders. Make sure that you have a sticker on your parking stub. If you don't have one, we have more at the check-in table. Make sure you've got it for the reduced parking fee. And if you would, now I found that in the classroom, if I wanted students to remember something, I needed to go over it in detail. Take a look at the last page of your program. It gives you all of the ways that you can stay in touch with the CSWA, the Hall of Distinction, where you can find things. The event today has been videotaped and will be available on YouTube in about 10 days, Katie? So you can revisit this and live it over and over and over. But also, the remarkable thing about our video collection is that there are themes. I'm seeing themes in our video interviews about what it is like to be a social worker, and one of the common themes is I hear people saying, and I loved my job. I loved my job. I spent a life as a social worker and I loved every minute of it. And so to inspire when you're feeling down or low, go watch some of our videos. They are so inspirational, and they can be the medicine that will keep you going. Be inspired by the stories and the lessons. So with that, I thank you very much, and we hope to see many of you again next year at the 2017 Hall of Distinction Induction. Thank you.